Morning. What a beautiful morning out there. Well, I'm off to the committee meeting this morning. Jeff and I are on the committee. So I'm going to the committee meeting this morning, and then this afternoon I'm going to visit my local flower show. It's the start of that season again where the flower shows are starting to kick in. So I'm going there this afternoon, and at some point I'm hoping to get a bit of gardening on the allotment. Well, it's a beautiful day today, and I've decided to come and look at my village show. They've got their spring show on, but before we go and visit the show and have a look at what daffodils and exhibits they've got, next door to the venue here in Norwood is Norwood Cemetery. Now, anybody who knows me, that you would know that I like the Victorian kitchen garden, and after they did that series, they did the Victorian kitchen, and in there they talked about Isabella Beeton, who was the first person to develop the modern day cookbook. Well, in this cemetery, in Norwood Cemetery, is the burial spot of Mrs Beeton. Here it is, a very unassuming grave for somebody that changed so much about cooking. And there she is, Isabella Mary, born 1836 and died in 1865. She had a very short life. She is the forerunner to the modern day cookbook, because before she did her books they would usually say just put a handful of this in and 2 handfuls of something else, but she was the first person to actually start to measure out the food so that you had, so if 200 people cooked it, they'd all get the same experience, rather than like it was before of just a handful of this and a dash of that. If you want to learn more about Mrs Beeton, I'll put a link in the description below. Now it's time to go off and have a look at the delights, possibly a cup of tea and a slice of cake at the local village spring show.
Busy doing everything.
Oh, they're all the ones that move to
If it wasn't against my love,
Oh, these were next. I hadn't realised those were next.
the carpet.
Get to go and pick some more. It turns out shrubbery,
But it looks nice.
Oh yes. afternoon. Typical. I just get back to the allotment and it starts to rain. Where's all this Spanish weather we were supposed to be having? Anyway, let's get on. And I know some of you may say this is too soon, but I can't wait any longer. And I'm going to sow my sweet corn. Now we won't go outside until mid-May after the last frost. But when I did it a few years ago, I did find that when I started it, I actually started it in mid-April, so I'm chancing my arm that the weather will be good in May. But it's a chance that I'm prepared to take. What's the cost of a packet of seeds anyway? So, if you're doing sweet corn, I'd be interested to find out what variety you're doing. And once I find my packet, I'll be able to tell you what variety I'm sowing as well. If you have root drainers, I would use them. But I don't have any, so I'm just going to put them into these pots. And I'm using Old Faithful John Innes seed sowing compost. Press it down, make sure it's nice and firm, and then the seeds will stay in here until it's time to put them outside. And the variety I'm doing this year is called Lark. I don't think I've done this one before. I usually do a variety called Swift. And because the plants get so big, I'm just going to put one kernel per pot. Then give them a really good watering, and I'll keep these in the greenhouse. Well, I'm going to continue and pot on all this sweet corn, so I'll catch up with you next time. So from me and everybody else, bye for now. April is certainly a busy month for sowing and transplanting, and the next thing that I need to transplant are these. And these are peppers, and they're called Sweet Sunshine. But these peppers, you grow them in a hanging basket. So very similar to what I did yesterday, just push them out the bottom and then transplant them into another pot. And then these, I'll take these back home and continue to raise them on the windowsill where I've got a heated bench. And don't forget, as always, pop a label in. I'm going to sow some more leeks. Now I'm going to use this carton that my mushrooms came in this morning for my breakfast. I'm just going to throw in some John Innes compost. This is a mix between seed sowing compost and John Innes number 2. For no particular reason, it's just that's all I've got. So just flatten that down. Now, I did one sowing about 4 weeks ago, and I need some more. So I'll do a second sowing today. So just sprinkle the seeds all over the top, and then I'll just cover them with a thin layer of compost, and I'll keep these in the greenhouse once I've given them a really good watering. And this year I'm growing the variety called Emir. And the advice is to put them in on the side, because if you put them flat, then there's more likelihood of them going to rot. So put them in on the side, and just one seed per pot. That's all it is. I'll give it some watering and pop that in the greenhouse. Now, I don't want too many, so I'm probably only going to sow about 3 or 4. This year I'll be growing 2 cucumbers, one for indoors in the greenhouse and one for outdoors in the open ground. And I'm going to sow them both today in single pots because I don't want to disturb the roots that much as they grow. So just a pot of John Innes seed compost, and very similar to the way that you sow melons. Just take the seed, and when you put it in on its side, cover it, give it a bit of water, and I'll keep the two of them for the time being indoors, and then when the final frost has happened in May, I'll then put it outside and I'll show you what to do then. Don't forget, give it a label. Well, that's it. I'm not doing any more today, but I'm sure there'll be some more seed sowing to do tomorrow. So from me and everybody else, until then, bye for now.